forget about Epstein. Forget about Epstein. I mean, the reality is Diddy has to be on suicide watch.
From the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your ass I fulfill it. Yeah, man, I'm talking about realest, one of the realest to try.
You remember when we went from AM radio to FM radio?
Yeah.
When FM came out, did you go, man, this doesn't sound as good as AM?
I don't know about that, but you remember when we would put a $20,000 stereo system in the truck?
Yes, I do remember all that. And it
was
it's
super
some crazy shit when you think about it.
Yeah, and it's super loud, right? Super, super loud. But once you've had it for a couple months, you go back to the place, and you're like, hey, I think something's broken. He's like, no, your ear is just used to it. Yeah. You're going deaf.
Yeah, you had it up too loud.
We've hired some new people recently, and it's the most unlikely one, right? When everybody goes to leave, we really have two crews. They don't realize it. You have the crew that is here an hour early working and an hour late working, and then you have the new hires that don't realize, like they are here at 8 o'clock and leave right at 5 o'clock. They don't realize that there is another crew. And I have this shirt for you, by the way. And it says, the tree of liberty has to be watered by the blood of tyrants and patriots occasionally. So
it's true. Every now and then. It's about to happen again.
So we hear this bump and like this booming system. And I'm like, who's got all the bass? Like that? That brings back memories. That sounds pretty good. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? And it's we hired this
Kia Soul, isn't it? It's like a Kia Soul that comes in.
It's the young man who has not worked out in many years and has decided, like, every day at break he's out there for 15 minutes leaving a pile of sweat on the ground. Fucking good on you. Like, fucking awesome.
What is this? 93? 92.
80.
There's no way we're in the 80s. The 80s were the coolest years anyways, but there's no 87.
Pulling the Thread Podcast, episode 87.
87. Nice.
What's going on?
It's a good year.
Are we going to stop at 126?
Why 126?
That's where we stopped last time.
Okay.
We got more comments on those videos when we stopped doing them than we got when we did them.
Well, we can stop at 126. Well, we do.
I go back and listen to them sometimes. Like, YouTube's like, hey, based on what you're viewing, we think you'd like to watch this. And they give me one of our podcasts. And I'm like, man, this is pretty good. I should just go watch my old shit. Okay, are you aware?
Am I aware?
Are you aware of anything currently going on in the last week in the world here, in just normal geopolitics?
The same stuff that's always going on. We're attempting to pick a fight. We're attempting to pick a fight in the Middle East.
So we're putting 40,000 more troops over there.
God, hey, sorry guys, sorry. I am so sorry that you guys are going over there. This is the worst part. This is the worst part for the military. Like, when you're a young lance corporal and you want to go shoot your M16 at bad guys, and they tell you we're going to go over here because there's a possibility that you're going to shoot your This is the worst part. The first guys that go, so fucking boring. They're just sitting over there, probably in a ship. Every now and then something will fly overhead.
Do you feel it? Aren't the ships so big you don't feel it?
And every now and then something will fly over, and you'll be like, fuck, when are we going to do this?
With all the technology we have now, can't the ship predict where the next wave is and counter wave it so they're stable?
They can't even.
Why don't they build
anymore?
What?
They can't even build ships anymore.
Why don't they build a what's that thing called?
A bridge?
No.
Subway.
No, that thing so your shit doesn't move around in a helicopter.
Oh,
a gimbal.
Gimbal. A gimbal ship?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know why they haven't built gimbal ships yet.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the 1800s, they had these electric vehicles that were like giant wheels, and it just rolled around and shit, but it was in a seat, and the person stayed completely stable.
Yes, I do believe.
Are you aware that another carrier group is in motion towards that area, supposedly, right now? Are you aware that...
The goal, I mean, the reality is, as I said before, and if anybody wants to rewatch old podcasts from last month, the goal is war with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
The Israelis are doing everything they can right now to goad Iran into a fight.
Now, with that said, the ambassador for Iran to, I believe, the United States and to Israel also had one of the pagers that exploded. So what was he doing with said pager?
I mean,
he was with Hezbollah.
Well, they probably were like, bro, hey, stay in the know.
Okay, so where I was going with that is not that that's big information. Everybody that's out there, very big. Are you aware?
I mean, let's just get
How do they carry all the gasoline for all the
let's
ships?
just let's in another ship.
Right. Do you know that that ship that carries all the fuel for that
Yeah.
fleet ran aground, is
It-
taking on water, and is being towed into port? Normal thing that happens all the time.
Well, first off, yes, Navy ships do occasionally run aground, and second, it's like saying that's kind of in the same group as a C-130 crashed on a runway. So there's 400 there's 400 support ships that have fuel in it. That one ship doesn't mean shit.
Got it. Okay.
Right, you know what I'm
That's
saying?
not
That-
the so the,
it
the
don't-
way
it
it
don't-
was. The way I
yeah.
heard it was like this whole thing. Mission scrubbed.
Yeah,
we
there-
lost our
no,
fuel supply.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. One tanker, one support tanker for the United States Navy sinking, blowing up, getting run aground. Rats take it over. Pirates.
Do rats take over U.S. Navy ships?
No. The Navy's. I mean, I can't speak for current Navy because they do have a personnel problem, but the Navy, the U.S. Navy, is very, very good about keeping cleanly.
So
ships.
the story I heard, and I want to say I heard it yesterday or today, and the story was that this ship has run aground, is taking on water. They had footage supposedly of the vessel, and there's several inches of water. Now you don't know what deck this is
Yeah.
on either, but they're having to pull it into port, have it repaired, and there is no ship available to replace this ship.
That's just.
And I just took it as put one and one together. It's probably like it's some DEI bullshit.
Well, it may very well be if it ran aground. Because here's the other thing that most people don't know is those support ships aren't, most of them, they're not U.S. Navy ships. Most of them are crewed by merchant marines.
Interesting.
So like when you're out in the middle of the Pacific and they do a sea replenishment, right? So they shoot the lines across and all that shit. They're usually that's usually a merchant marine ship. It's not even a Navy ship.
Did you ever fire one of those line launchers?
I never fired one. You go down and watch them do it.
So are these
Pretty
line
cool.
launchers that are attached to the ship,
No, in the
or are they still like? Because I
Again,
asked this because Remington made an 870 stainless steel shotgun that was a line launcher.
again, I can't speak for current Navy, but when I was still in, they were using an M14.
Okay.
They'd use an M14
With a
to
blank?
with a blank to shoot the line over. Then they pull it. Then they pull the real line over, and then they pull a bigger line over, and then they pull the fucking fuel lines over.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting to see these guys work, and it's interesting to see that because the merchant marine guys that are on those ships aren't really sailor. I know the merchant marine guys are gonna be like, but they're not naval. They're not Navy. They're not under contract,
US
and
Navy.
they're still fucking operating at
So
really high
interesting. My
high
friend
levels.
Matt Chartel has a brother named Mike Chartel. There's Matt, Mark, and Mike. And Mark, he was like right when we got out of high school. He was older than us a little bit, but I remember he became a merchant marine. I don't know what that entailed, but he would go out to sea. Like Mark always had a lot of money, like more money than any of us had. And even like friends that were on the college path and shit, Mark owned a home sooner. Mark had things before we had them, and he loved being a sailor, like a merchant marine. And I never had that conversation with him as to like, what do you really do? We knew guys from the gun shows that was from Grass Valley, California, the ammo company.
Right.
And those guys would go out and king crabfish, and they would work, I think it was like 6 weeks out of the year, 8 weeks out of the year. Jared Johnson knew some of these guys.
Yeah.
But even before we knew Jared, like we knew these guys from the gun show circuit, and they always had fat money. Like they showed up in really nice vehicles and had huge, they owned an ammunition company. But those boys, their money came from king crab fishing. So the ocean pays bills very well.
Yeah, and the reality from the perspective of a merchant marines do everything that let's just say 90% of, probably 95% of everything that a U.S. Navy sailor does outside of the combat of it, right? So
Without as much bullshit.
I don't know. I don't know because there's a certain. I don't want to say I, because there's a certain amount of bullshit that you have to do to run those big naval vessels, right? You can't just run it like a pirate ship. I mean, even the reality is, think about it. Even
pirate ships, where I'm going with
yeah,
this.
even pirate ships, you still see those guys out there scrubbing the deck, right?
Right.
There's a certain amount
So when we think adventure and the last frontier and shit, right? That is the ocean, really, for us. Like, you and I, we're not going to space, but we could go to the ocean tomorrow.
yes,
And when you think of pirate ship and you see the pirate movies and the adventure movies, you don't see the 99% of the time they're on that fucking ship, you know, fucking just bored as fuck and you know, cleaning and painting and
Yep.
all that shit,
That
right?
was-
Because when you don't do that, you have diseases and rats and plague and scurvy and all kinds of other shit.
I used to feel so sorry. I used to feel so sorry for the Navy guys because you'd pull into a port, you know, wherever it was, Philippines, Korea, Thailand, whatever. You'd pull into these ports, and the Marines, obviously, because it's amphib, the Marines go buck wild. They're just on libo. Yeah, you got guys that have to stand certain watches and things like that, but it's relatively a small number. The Navy crew goes 50%. So half the ship is chipping rust and painting.
So
chipping rust-
bosun's mate.
Yeah, chipping rust and painting, and it's like, damn, constantly. But again, that's the Navy life. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was a sailing vessel with fucking sails or a modern naval ship. You have to constantly be fucking taking care of that thing because, you know, even you think even the big ships, the sea takes its toll, right? The sea takes its toll on those ships. And every time they go out, there's something to fucking paint. There's rust to fucking... Even though, you know, a lot of those ships are coming right out of their 6-month cycle of maintenance where they're contracted, painted all over and all that shit. So it's a tough job. I mean, being a Navy sailor is a tough job.
Are they abating the rust? Like, or do they just kind of paint over it and put a fresh seal on it? So underway...
I think, okay, I believe they do rust abatement on most of the ships from a contract perspective, but out at sea, I think you're just sealing it up. I don't think they're because, again, I know there's going to be 9,000 Navy guys on here going, we don't even use paintbrushes anymore or something. It's just a matter of the volatility of the chemicals aboard a naval vessel and what can you carry and what can't you carry,
okay.
right? You know, so it's like all our vehicles are Carc painted, right?
Chemical agent reactive coating.
Yeah, are Carc painted. Now, 20 years ago,
It looks cool.
yeah, it's a good coating. 20 years ago, it was nothing to see a fucking Marine out there spraying fucking Carc. But now it's because Carc is considered a hazardous chemical. They don't even have the paint anymore.
Yeah,
It's all contract work.
But in California, I mean, semen is a cancer-causing
Well, that's
agent.
true.
So like the best paint you could ever put on a car is always a lead-based paint, right? They had this paint. I think it was called Imron or something, and it's this lead-based lacquer. And they would put them on Ferraris and stuff. I watched Gas Monkey Garage. At one time, he had bought an F40 Ferrari, very, very sought after, very expensive car. Most of them were like Countach's. They killed a lot of their owners because they didn't have any traction control with massive power. And he bought this thing, and it had been in an accident, but it has to be like blessed. It's like having a fucking electrical inspection and a plumbing inspection.
Right.
Like the Ferrari guy has to come out and bless and say the prayer and shit and check every step of the way, and then the Ferrari guys have to paint the Ferrari color, and like otherwise you just have this F40 that's, you know, worth a couple $100,000 instead of several million because Ferrari didn't fucking do the prayer over it. And I know it's more involved than that, but that paint was the shit. And then in California, like, they couldn't apply that paint because it's lead based and just all kinds of asinine shit. Where when I was a kid, I'd heard about this, and I just, you know, I went to a paint store, and I'm like, do you guys have Amron paint? And they're like, yes, we have Amron paint. You could just buy this shit.
Yeah.
And now, like, everything, like, it's crazy. I buy things, seemingly normal shit, like those dog clickers, right? And even on Amazon now, it pops up with this fucking prop whatever, this in California, this may cause cancer. Like, and it's fucking copper. And now, like, have you guys noticed that you used to be able to buy shit on the internet and not get charged sales tax? And now all these places do sales tax, and now they're actually making it so that you have to collect sales tax. But as the business, I have to collect sales tax based on each fucking municipality to the zip code, and I am responsible to pay said sales tax to those states now, rather than the program just fucking doing it or the IRS doing it. Like, the IRS knows when you move money. Why is it on you to fucking determine so that they can then go, oh, nope, you were wrong, and then they can charge you more or drag you into court over it? The program could do it all.
Well, no, it has to do with inefficiency.
It really seems that way.
No, it has to. You can't. Here's the thing: you cannot create a system in government that's efficient.
But because we're not even talking government, right? The system already does it. The system knows. My shopping program software knows that I'm shipping this to Middle Tennessee or Middle Texas, and it knows that and says I have to collect this and I am responsible. Why doesn't the program just fucking do it?
Because you have to have inefficiencies.
It's absolutely because then we might not need that department.
Well, you have to have inefficiency. It's not about needing the department. Government has to have inefficiencies, because if government did anything efficiently, then you, the consumer, could see how much fucking money they're actually stealing. That's what it's all about. You create this fog of bureaucracy that you can't see through, and it's too complicated, and that's why the tax code is this big instead of a flat rate tax. You create this fog so you can't see who is actually stealing all the money.
Maybe so.
No, that's it.
I agree.
That's 100% it.
And I think part of it's too so that system doesn't collapse, right? Because they're going to drag you into court over this shit.
Yeah.
At some point. That's not the normal court. That's a fucking entirely different court with all their clerks and all their fucking and they're not even judges, right? They're magistrates or fucking lawyers or whatever. And it's just fucking wild. And just like child support court. You don't go see a normal fucking judge. You see the dude over here in the side room. Like it's like there's 50 different fucking courts that exist. Imagine if they just made them
inefficient. It's inefficient, so you can't see how much money they're actually stealing. That's what it's all about. The only thing that efficiency brings is an eye that you don't want looking at your government program.
I see a lot of people saying, like, if Kamala wins, number one, she's not going to win it, right? But if she gets appointed, right, if she gets installed,
it's over. The election's over at 10 o'clock,
like Biden did. They're like, we're not complying. Like, we're not going anymore. We're not going to do this shit. It's not going to take but a few thousand fucking small groups or organizations to do that shit. Like, yeah, they can go to Waco and fucking burn them down. They can kill Randy Weaver. But if you have multiples of them all at the same time, they're not going to be able to fucking handle all of those people. So what do you think they do?
Well, you create a crisis.
Like Diddy?
No, Diddy, you know what Diddy was?
A distraction.
Yeah, it was a distraction. Well, first off, it wasn't a distraction. Diddy was
weirdo with a bunch of dildos.
Yeah, Diddy has been a weirdo for a long time, and they all knew about it.
Think about if they took Brandel away, and then media or whoever could go to Brandel's house. Brandel's gonna have a bunch of weird shit that's gonna seem fucking weird, even though he's just a normal dude. I don't think it's gonna be dildos and lube, but there's gonna be something. They're like,
I don't know if
he
had him as normal.
He had 400 Star Wars figures, and they were all fucking mounting Barbie dolls doggy style. There's going to be some weird shit, right? Maybe. If we go through your house, there's going to be some fucking thing. Well,
no,
we know they're going to be like,
say.
What are they going to say?
You know what they're going to say?
Survivalist.
He had 1,000 rounds. He had 1,000 rounds and 2 guns. Fucking anarchy.
He had all these expired MREs.
I left those at the other house.
We had a whole garage full of MREs.
Here's
an entire like like we walled it all in. Like if you put and built a whole wall, let's say the garage is, let's say it's 10 by 10. We did a stack that's 10 by 10. And then we came out and did a stack that's 10 by 10. Like you could not put another fucking single, every piece of air in the garage was taken up with MREs.
How long do they last?
In good in moderately good conditions, so like your garage, 10 years.
But even when they go bad, there's still
in a
components of them that are good.
In a temperature-controlled environment, they can last up to 20 years.
We ate one here that was almost 30 years old.
We had, so when the Gulf War kicked off, they were just getting ready to transition to the light tan MREs, and they had brown MREs. Now, the brown MREs were 10 years expired. So look on there, fucking 10 years expired.
So we're talking 1990. Before that, even.
They're 10 years expired. The military was issuing us 2 of the brown MREs. So they were like, here, we know these are bad. If the package is bloated at all, don't eat it. Otherwise, here you go. And so you would take you would get 2 MREs as if it was one, because they knew that there was going to be stuff in there that you were going to open up and go, what? What is that? That it would be bad. But they were still issuing them out, and we still ate the fuck out of them.
We ate some of those brown ones here in this building.
I have a brown one. I have a brown one at the house. So not a brown one, a dark chocolate.
That's
one.
the ones we're talking about.
Those are the original ones.
Yeah.
I have one at the house. It has to be 50 years old. No,
it can't be 50.
30 years old. It has to be 30 years old. I'll bet that the stuff in there is still.
I have 6 of them.
And I haven't. It's not been in a temperature-controlled environment or nothing. But I check the bag all the time. The bag's not bloated or anything. What?
Is it paper bag?
No. It's a heavy plastic.
It's like aluminum packets.
Yeah.
Inside cardboard sleeves. Inside a bag that's very like almost plastic rubberized.
Now the reality of it is there's no food in an MRE. That's why they last so long. There's no real food in there. It's just high carbohydrates in order to keep you mission profile, right? It's
There's
just
a little
it's
bit of
just high
chicken
carbs.
or meat or stuff in
It's
there.
probably not even real chicken or real. I mean, it could.
Is it like space food?
No, it's
not
not freeze dried,
dehydrated.
man.
It's
You
not
don't.
freeze-dried, no.
Yeah,
No.
You could warm it up if you want to, but you don't need to.
Yeah,
I've
it's
eaten
all pre-cooked.
hundreds of them just
Yeah,
with a fork, just out of the bag. And you get
that's the way most MREs
and you get
are.
creative, right? You're going to take the crackers, you're going to mix it with the peaches to kind of make a salty peach cobbler. But I have 6 of them. There's a blue Rubbermaid tote in the lean-to outside out there, sitting there. And every couple of years, I open one of those and eat it to see if I get sick. And that's out 105 degrees, frozen in the winter.
It's just they're packed with so many preservatives,
Salts and
that they kind of last forever.
and they come from like there's a How It's Made or Dirty Job. Somebody did a whole video on MREs, and a lot of them do come from like Vandy camps, or they have different, and they'll have like Skittles are in there, or M&Ms are in there, but they do come from like canned food places.
Here's the crazy thing. John just was talking about M&Ms. So the MREs, when I was going through boot camp, the MREs changed. So military rations have always come with like a candy bar, some sort of chocolate, or some sort of licky chewy, some sort of like
They used to have a cigarette in them.
some sort of sucker type thing. And they always came with that, right? There was always something in there because you have to keep the troops happy, right? But it wasn't that big of a deal. It was very rare that you got the chocolate. It was usually, I can't think of the name of them. JJ's going to be mad at me.
They're the Charms.
Charms. The Charms would be in there.
It's like a fake Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, like a fake Jolly Rancher. And they had just changed the MRE menu when I was going through boot camp, and one of the things they started putting in real candy. So there were bags of M&Ms.
When we're at Real War, they give you better shit.
We're bags of M&Ms inside the MREs. And so when you're in boot camp, at least back in the old days, whenever you were eating your MRE, you had to sit Indian style, put your helmet in between your legs, and dump your MRE in your helmet, and then you would just eat it. right? You just throw it, and then everything goes back in the plastic bag, and then they would collect it up, and it would go away.
Do you mean like the contents? Like dump it all out of
No,
the
no,
bag?
you would just dump
just
the
the
contents of the
bags.
bag in there. And so everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing this, and the drill instructors are kind of just, they're doing their thing.
So you're not using the helmet as a bowl?
No, not as a
Good,
bowl,
okay.
because we had Kevlar by then. We
Okay.
weren't. And I think it was drill instructor Sergeant Titzer sees this kid chowing down on M&Ms. Now, it would be super rare at that time from a military perspective to see an actual M&M bag, right? Because normally anything that goes into a military ration, it gets changed a little bit, like it'd be in its own little ration bag. But they were just putting M&M bags in the fucking MRE. Oh, he lost his shit. He lost his shit
Thought it was
on the
contraband?
kid. Yeah, thought he had some contraband. Lost his shit, and the kid's like, "It came over." And then so the drill instructors all ransacked everybody's shit and collected up all the candy. And I know the motherfuckers were eating it all week, but they just lost their shit about it. Well, the funny thing is, I want you to think about this. This is how the military rolls, right? Is the M&Ms were brand new. The M&Ms were brand new to the service, meaning the guys who had been in had never seen MREs with M&Ms in them. So they're like, oh, shit, they're going nuts. Well, I got some M&Ms, right? And the M&Ms I got were win a fucking $1 million. The M&Ms was doing some promotion. So on the M&Ms, it was like win $1 million. And I'm like, I'm going to win $1 million while I'm in boot camp. It's going to be shit. And then I look at it, and I actually read the shit that's on the package. And even then, those those M&Ms, that contest ended 3 years earlier. So even then, those M&Ms were already fucking 3 years old.
Do you remember the game piece thing that McDonald's would do? You'd go,
Oh yeah, huh?
yeah. Do they still do that?
Every now and then they'll do it.
Like I saw something. I don't remember where I saw it, but guys were collecting those old pieces, like old pieces, 20, 30 years old, and like paying big money for that shit. It's like a collector's thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's your MRE. We went on a deep rabbit hole with the MRE.
That's all right. So do you think the ocean is still the great frontier? Like if a young man, do you think
We know more about the moon than we do about the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. So do you think it's like to be an explorer, right? Admiral
No.
Byrd or any of that shit?
Nah.
No?
No.
Do you think when merchant marines pull ashore, it's the same thing as when the United States Navy and the Marine Corps pulls ashore?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think they're like in Thailand? It's not
no,
the
I don't,
same
I don't
port,
think. I mean, yeah, they're pulling into the same.
but it's
port,
not the same experience.
But it's. I doubt that they. I mean, I am sure that merchant marines have their own experience, right? They have their own. I'm sure when if a merchant marine ship, and I don't know where they pull into port wise. I'm sure they hit Thailand or hit the spot.
like when we did that.
I am sure they have an experience, and I'm sure that experience is one where they're like, woohoo, high five. But the truth is, nobody has an experience. Nobody has the same experience when a U.S. naval
Just because
group,
of the sheer money.
just because of the amount of money and the amount of people that pull ashore. Like, they bust motherfuckers in for that party. They're busting people in. Like, I've said this. I've told this story before about the two brothers from Las Vegas.
Tell it again.
So there was these two brothers from Las Vegas that were building 1919s and semi-automatic M60 machine guns, and
I don't think I've heard this.
I love these guys. I was like, oh, I got to have the 1919. I got to have the
Is that where your 1919 came
yeah.
from?
And these it was just two brothers, and they were fucking awesome. And one year they're like, hey, me and my brother are going to Thailand, and I'm like, awesome. You guys are gonna have a good time. Where are you going? And they're like, we're going to Pattaya Beach. I'm like, never been there. But it sounds like I go, you're just gonna have a good time. It's a big party town, right? Or a big party. Thailand's a big party place, and I don't think nothing of it. Had to been 12 months go by or 6 months go by. I go on deployment. This is how small the world is. I go on a fucking deployment. We are battle steaming around the Pacific. We pull into Thailand. And where do we pull into? Pattaya Beach. I'm literally walking down the street in Thailand, boop, 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 and these two guys are sitting on bar stools, turning around, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here at the same time we're here. Yeah, the coincidence of that is phenomenal. Like, if it had been 20 years later, I would have been like, you guys are feds. There's no way. There's no way you got here at the same time as I'm. But anyways, so they had been there a week before we showed up. And they're like, everything you said was true. Like, everything you said about this place was true. But we thought we were Party Central. He goes, but as soon as your ship poked around the corner of the bay and started to come in, he was like, just busloads and busloads of girls. Buses come in, offload. He goes, the whole atmosphere of the island, or this Patty Beach, little beach city, whole atmosphere completely changed. Like, it was like, he's like Mardi Gras times 5 million.
Interesting.
It's because of the money, right? The reality is when the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps pull into some port, $10 million easy, and that's just fun money. That's not the port costs, the bunker boats that take you to and from the ship. That's just $10 million of fun money that is going to be immediately interjected into your community. And when you're a place like Thailand, or even example, I'll say Australia. We went to Townsville, Australia. Even that instant $10 million hitting the street as soon as the Marines get there, or the Marines and the Navy get there. That's a big chunk of change. You want those guys to show up. So
yeah, that money always trickles down in the economy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is, the reality is when you think of a Marine Expeditionary Unit coming ashore, it's not trickle down.
Correct.
It's trickle up.
Yeah.
Right. It's trickle up. That money's hitting that money. That 10 million. When I say $10 million, that money, that $10 million
comes from the United States Navy.
It's on the street. That's at street level. Those Marines and sailors are spending that fucking much money when they hit the ground. Now, the Navy is spending a bunch of other money to be parked there, to get fuel, to get food there. So the overall economy, anytime the Navy pulls into some port, big Navy, the overall economy is going to get a fucking huge bump. Because they're not just showing up and partying. They're showing up and going, hey, we need milk. We need steaks. We need rice. And the U.S. Navy don't buy 4. They buy thousands.
So do you think would you tell a young person to join the Navy to go around the world and see the world?
No.
No. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to just get a backpack and stick your thumb out and go see the world.
Have you heard Jacob Herman traveled through fucking Spain and Italy and backpacked through all that? Have you heard all this shit? Oh yeah, he ran into he's over there there's some trail, it's like the Appalachian Trail or something that goes through there that everybody does. And he's in the middle of fucking nowhere, and like the people that he came in contact with from the United States while he was there. Yeah. We got to get him, like, we could just shut the fuck up and let Jacob talk, and it would go for days. Yes. So Jason, our t-shirt guy in the Navy, he's a SWIC guy. A lot of people don't know that. His daughter Dory decided she wanted to be a corpsman, and they're letting girls go to SWIC and SEALs and all this stuff. So she fucking enlists. She gets in this program and for special operations, medical capable or whatever, and he's driving her to Memphis, that's a long fucking drive. It's hours, and he's driving her up there, I think twice a week, to do pull-ups and fucking pool swims. And he's like, dude, you're not gonna believe this shit. Like, there's a girl that thinks she's a boy. There's a boy that thinks she's a girl. Lived as, looks as, and they're in this program, right? They're going to this shit. Well, anyway, she most of these people wash out. She enlists. She has now gone to boot camp, and he, like, you can see it bothers. Like, it's not that it bothers. He misses her. And he's like, I got my first letter from Dory. And like, he's telling us, so we're kind of living, we're like, did you hear from Dory? Did you hear from Dory? What's Dory doing? What's going on? And she's like, and we're hearing the same stories that you tell from boot camp, from this kid in boot camp. And she's at great, and just normal ass boot camp in Great Lakes right now.
Yeah, Great Lakes.
And
nice.
You can see, like, he succeeded in that she is now out and doing this thing that she said she was going to do, but at the same time, you can tell it like eats at him that she's gone. Like, I miss her, and I only saw her a few times a year, and her hopes is she's going to Camp Pendleton. She's hoped to be stationed at Camp Pendleton or whatever it is.
Ugh.
And that's her fucking plan, and she's got this shit planned out, and she's coming back, and she's buying this truck, and she's gonna get it tax free, and like,
That's cool.
yeah, and like the amount of money she's making, especially living on base, not having, like she's gonna be able to sock away, $4,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month or something right now. It's fucking insane the amount.
She's mandatory TSPing, so she's working towards her retirement already. Like if you do TSP and you do it the way you're supposed to, meaning you max your percentage out every time you get promoted, in the long run, all things equal, it will be way better than a military retirement. You could be a multi-millionaire if you do it right, because of the way the TSP is set up. Nobody does it right, but TSP is not I think it's a shitty thing because it's not guaranteed, right?
As in, like, pension, it could go away.
Yeah, it could just go away. Where your military pension, in theory, your military pension could just go away too. But to not have that safety net for people who are constantly on guard to defend the United States or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's the military, unfortunately, forgot people in the military. You have a bunch of fucking assholes that are in charge of the military, and they want to run it more like a business and less like a military. And that never works out good for the people in the business, right? It just doesn't.
The employees.
The employees. It never works out in the long run when you're talking about a business that big. It could literally, the military could turn into the fucking auto industry where it collapses and there's nothing, right? And then you don't have anything. If you take a look at the military, like in the 70s, right? After Vietnam, the military collapsed. Like it collapsed. It was not a fucking good place to really be. But they still had their pension. They still had their retirement, right? So if you fucking stuck it out, you still were going to get that retirement pension, where there's a possibility, because everything is now linked specifically to the TSP, that you could do 20 years and the stock market could fucking collapse and you don't have shit. And the military has no safety net for that. They're not like, they're going to just be like, oh, well, that's your fault. Too bad. So sad. So there's a lot of arguments one way or the other. Like, if you do everything right and you do it the way you should, in the long run, you will make out better than if you were doing what we had going as far as retirement goes. But you're beholden to something that the fucking Department of Defense is not beholden to, right? You're beholden to the stock market, and that's pretty volatile.
How long have you been out of the Marine Corps? 20?
I'm not going to say. I don't know. A long time.
Okay, let's say it's 12.
Let's say, yeah.
How many,
no, it's no longer than 12.
Okay, so seemingly a lot of people who have also been out as long as you have. Would you say that most of them are more successful now than they were while in the Marine Corps?
It depends. See, because the problem is I have an old vision. I have an old vision of the military. I don't have a new vision of the military. And it's a relatively new vision where people look at military careers as from a successful point of view. Meaning, again, you retire sergeant major, you were successful from a military perspective, but that doesn't really equate to success, because if you dot your I's and cross your T's and you just stay in, you're going to be a sergeant major, right? As long as you do the party line, you're going to be a sergeant major. Does not necessarily mean that you are good at anything, to include leadership. Like, I hate to say it, but you don't have to be a fucking good leader to be a fucking master gunnery sergeant or a fucking sergeant major. You could be a total turd. You just did the things that the service told you to do, right? If you go to the drill field, you go to your continuing education, you do those things. You may be a fucking total turd, but you're an E9. Now, was that person successful? According to the military, yes, because he fucking made it to the highest rank he could possibly make. That doesn't necessarily mean they were successful, right? And so when guys get out of the military, I'm being kind of hard on the military, but when guys get out of the military, they have no matter what, it really doesn't matter the MOS. Usually they have a certain amount of there's a certain amount of bullshit level that you always go through, right? So there's always bullshit in the military. You'll see guys complaining about it now. They'll be like, "Yeah, the military is," but there's a certain amount of bullshit that you always go through. And I think that is why, I really think that is why when guys get out of the military, they tend to be a little more successful because they know the bullshit, right? So if Brandel doesn't know the bullshit because he's never done it.
Are they more successful, or is it just that we know people that are successful?
I think
on a whole,
I think on a whole that former military members, if you were to take 18-year-olds, from the same group, 100,000 of them in the military, 100,000 outside the military, and those 100,000 in the military, let's say on average they go to 10 years in the military. When they get out, on average, these guys are going to be operating higher than their peers. Now they might take a suck job underneath the peer because he's been in the whatever, he
won't stay there
mechanic.
long.
He's not going to stay there long.
Yeah,
he's not going to stay because we train. I don't want to say we train military members to deal with. Well, again, you're training them to deal with high stress situations and bullshit. And so when you're in the civilian world and you're like, this is super stressful, a military guy's going to go, what?
We ain't being shot at. There's no mortars.
You ain't fucking hungry. You ain't tired. It's not raining. Like
you didn't get left here.
How many times have you heard me say it could be worse? Could be raining, right?
He doesn't say that to me.
It could be worse. Could be raining. So that's just a common military thing to say, to go like, hey, if you think this sucks,
yeah,
there's always suck above it. There's always more suck above it. So
that's why I say, I go, you just need a little recalibration.
That's
we can make this worse.
And so I think, I don't have any empirical data, no scientific research anomalies, but when I look at people that were in my peer group, let me think. I will look at I'm gonna do a mental picture of my peer group. And my peer group, even the guys that got like Chris getting out after 6 and Travis, and there's nobody in my peer group where I'm like, fuck, that guy's not gonna make it. Now,
well, hold on. People who weren't going to make it were never going to be in the peer group, and that's why I'm saying that, right?
No, because
we know some SEALs, we know some snipers,
but you're forgetting that I had my last deployment. I had a suicide squad, like I literally had a suicide squad that I would go out with. Even those guys, like when I think about those guys, I think there's only one of those guys that's middle of the road. Like, just middle of the road.
By choice.
But all the rest have fucking moved up, that have been exponentially more successful. So I just think that again, you're always going to have guys that are going to fall through the cracks. Doesn't matter whether you're in the military or outside the military. But I think, even the Coast Guard, there's a level of suck in the Coast Guard. And so I think those guys, when they get out, we have the ability to rise above mediocrity, maybe, or just average, because you can get stuck. You can get stuck in, if you're just whatever, if you're fucking selling car, you can get stuck and become mediocre. But then when a guy gets out of the military, he knows he has to be a little hungry for that, whatever it is. So I don't know. I mean, I might be propping the military up too much, but yeah, I don't. Again, I don't. Even the guys that were fucked up. Like, I know some guys that were fucked up and they're still relatively successful holding it together with a fucking. It might be an easy thread to pull to completely unravel, but even those guys are still.
Can you think of anybody that's not?
Well, there was one kid. There was one kid that got out and had a total fucking meltdown.
Was he melting down before he went in the military?
I don't know. He's a peripheral. So he was in H&S Company, and I knew him through H&S Company. I didn't know him from the sniper platoon. And I know he completely melted down because he actually contacted me about his meltdown. And I was like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to go to the VA and you need to talk to blah, blah. And he was just a 4-year guy.
Is that because that's the only path that you know to give him is to go to the VA? Do you think the VA helps more, or do you think they also fuck people up?
I don't know what the percentages would be, but yeah, there's only so many hours in the day. So, but again, even this guy who mediocre meltdown, like 4 months later, he sent me a text. He's like, I'm in Florida on the beach drinking beers. Thanks for sending me to the VA. They fixed They
medicated me.
Well, I don't think they medicated him. I think they just wrote him a check. And so, he's living that check life. But, I mean, if that's the thing you want to do, that's the thing.
Buys time, buys options.
If that's the thing you want to do, that's the thing you want to do, right? So I don't know. I don't even know where you're going with this, but.
Well, where I'm going with it is, I remember my dad would have my sister and I on the weekends, right? And he was stationed at maybe Balboa at the time. And he's, going through becoming a psychologist, but he's working also at Balboa Hospital doing whatever he was doing at the time. Couldn't have been corpsman 20 years, 15 years in or whatever. But I remember asking him about all the homeless military people, right? Because you'd see all these M65 field coats. And he said, well, because seemingly as a child, we expect, seeing war movies and stuff, we expect those to be Vietnam veterans. And maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But he said, there's always people that are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were crazy to begin with.
Yeah.
And it is not necessarily the military that has put them here on the street, or that's not necessarily the cause.
They probably were going to be homeless before.
The jail system or the court system put them in the military, or they were drafted into the military, went to Vietnam, and they were going to be doing this same path. They would just be doing it in their hometown had they not been sent into the military a lot of times.
I would argue that that's just a social dynamic, not necessarily the people being drafted or forced into the military. That if the military did, again, because remember the normal military, it's about numbers. That's all. It really is just about numbers. They don't give a shit if you're blue, orange, crazy, not crazy. They don't. They need those numbers, right? You need a certain amount of personnel to crew a ship. You need a certain amount of personnel to crew an artillery piece. So it's numbers, right? When I look at the people, when you think about like PTSD and stuff like that, when I look at the people that hit that blip, right? Made the wave. All of them. There's not a single one of them that I would go, well, he didn't have problems before. Like, this is the reality is at least in my small sphere, the chaos or the chaos of war is not creating a problem, it's amplifying a problem, right? So, if a motherfucker joins the military and he has a traumatic childhood and then goes to combat, it's going to amplify whatever the trauma was that he had growing up.
Does the trauma come out during combat, or does the trauma amplified after the combat?
I believe it's, again, this is just my experience. It amplified it after the fact, like
because we're trying to figure this out.
Most of the guys, when you see, the reality is when people are busy, So when people are busy, if you have buttons and knobs and shit you got to push to make the thing work, 99.9% of the people are not thinking traumatic event because they have these things they have to do, right? The Marine Corps used to be really good. The Marine Corps used to be really good at ruck marching it out of you. So, there is a lot of examples there's a lot of examples of World War II where guys would go through some really fucking real shit that we haven't seen in a long time. And the Marine Corps would bring them back and fucking put them in the field and fucking ruck march them around and give them all these tasks that they had to complete. Well, that keeps them occupied and keeps them away from the thing that might make them go bananarama, right? And we used to be really good at it. We're not good at it anymore.
I'm
We
curious.
isolate those guys now.
I'm curious how many people sit down with a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, and the dude, like, because they have to, right? They have to talk to this guy. I'm curious what the numbers are that don't want to talk to that person and just want to get out of there versus the guy that is there amplifying his problem to get that check larger and larger and larger.
I would say that
I remember I saw something, I think it was Bet David had a dude on who had written a book about how fucked up the VA is. I think it's Bet David. It was Andy Frisella had him on. And this dude said, there are absolutely people with PTSD and problems. And then there's also a lot of people looking for money. He said a lot of people, he said when the VA started giving out big checks, and he said we had a ton of people coming back from Vietnam that they're writing checks to. And when we took the data and we used the Freedom of Information Act and pulled the DD-214s and then correlated it to the military file paperwork that we had, they're saying, most of the people that were claiming special operations and rangers and stuff like that wasn't true. Yeah. And then people that were paying that had these massive things happen in combat didn't see any combat whatsoever. He said when we started correlating it, that there was just a bunch of nonsense in there. People that needed help were definitely not getting help. And we were paying a lot of money to people who it was fabricated.
It's actually rare. I know this is going to seem weird, but it's actually rare to meet someone that was in the military that was actually in real combat, because the percentages are so small, right? When you think about the United States in general, only 1% of the population serves anyways, right? So now we're talking service, just service, only 1%. So while it seems like there's a lot of military personnel or a lot of people, it's because we use so many numbers. That's why, right? So it's not, you don't meet all the guys that fucking were in service in 1989. You meet all the guys that were in service from the 80s. And in the 80s, nobody was going to war. There was no combat. So you have to think about what you're actually bumping into. And then when you look at the military in general, it's a small percentage of the military that's actually what we call combat arms. People that actually pull the trigger. So I'll include, tanks, artillery, all that. Those are combat arms, guys. But it's a small percentage of the overall military that actually does that. And when you look at the guys within those combat arms, it's a small percentage of them that have had the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time to go into combat. So it's a rarity, right? It is actually a rarity to meet dudes who have been in combat, real fucking combat. So
what was the first one? Desert Shield.
Yeah, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Yeah,
Desert Shield. The first one. Like
yeah.
I've met more people that were in combat from that than all of the rest probably combined.
And the problem with that is
yes,
even rarer.
Yes, that's my point.
The combat element of that Desert Storm and Desert Shield was even rarer. That you were going to get in a fucking shooting match.
Yeah.
But the reason why you run into Desert Shield guys, and you're going to see more and more Desert Shield guys, is because the Vietnam veterans are all dying. So if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
You think about when we were growing up, Vietnam veteran stuff was everywhere, right?
We had a Vietnam veteran walk in here for a job. Did I tell you this?
Yeah, yeah. Vietnam veteran stuff was everywhere. Those guys are dying off, and they always get replaced. And so it'll be Desert Storm guys, and then you're going to start seeing, once the Desert Storm guys start dying off, you're going to start seeing Iraqi veterans, you know, Afghanistan, all that shit, War on Terror veterans, GWAT veterans, right? It's just the way the ball rolls, right? But what I'm saying is, it's kind of the VA. We're going to go back to the VA, and you talking about them writing checks. Remember, the VA is required to show proficiency. And the way they show proficiency is by checks written, they show proficiency by checks written, not by successful cases. So the VA gets more money because they write more money. Because I'm giving this money to these veterans, right? So to say that they are actually vetting all these people out to see who really, because again, you know, if you go into the VA, let's say you're a truck driver. You're just a military truck driver. Maybe you didn't even deploy. And if you go into the VA and you say you're all fucked up because of the military and tell them what they want to hear, is it the VA's job to suss that out and really go to screws on this guy to see, is he just trying to get a check? Is this motherfucker just trying to get a check? Or you were part of the Department of Defense, and we all know that the Department of Defense does dumb fucking shit all the time, and people are screwed up from being in the Department of Defense. Here's your check, right? It's kind of like you got to take the good with the bad, because there are guys that go there that generally need real help, and there are people that go there who get a check that don't need help. That's part of that contract that the U.S. government signed up for, right? When you take that young man from his hometown and tell him you're going to do what we say, when we say, where we say, okay, but as that young man, I am hoping that when I do the things that you tell me to do, in the end, you're going to take care of me. The government does a shitty job of taking care of people. So I don't care.
I don't care either.
Yeah, I don't care if
it takes fucking giving to 100 to help the one guy that really needs it. I don't care.
If Lance Corporal if the VA is going to give Lance Corporal Shitbag a check because he fell down up in 29 Palms and has flashbacks of CACs, whatever.
We're having this conversation because I made a
we have senators. We have fucking senators that have lifetime. We have fucking representatives in our government who have done fucking nothing, who have lifetime medical and the benefits of being able to steal from the
right and
entire
lifetime
government.
medical that they have taken away from you,
Yeah.
or even me as my own, right? As the Obamacare shit, right? They destroy these medical plans that we've paid to for fucking a decade. But they don't use the medical that they require you to use, right? My medical went from $800 a month to fucking $3,000 a month with Obamacare, like fucking overnight.
Yeah,
like,
well, that's because you have to pay for all the nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I've still never used it. Like I've never, thank God, I've never fucking used it.
Well, why not?
Because it's fucking faster and cheaper for me to just pay for the things I need out of pocket.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I've never made a claim on insurance that I can recall. But it's there if I need that helicopter ride or that fucking... Okay.
Take a break.
All right, so we're
what
back.
What are we talking about? Oh, we're back.
The VA stuff. And,
yeah, VA, whatever. It's a shit
and all
show.
of that.
It's the government. It's the government. There's nothing that the government does well. Nothing.
Did that judge thing just happen?
Yes, it just happened.
Okay, tell me about it. What are we talking about? I saw several judge things.
Here locally, Kentucky.
Local, okay, Kentucky.
Kentucky, right next to the border of Tennessee. I don't know the township. A sheriff, which is a big deal, I think, goes to court, goes to the judge's chamber. Now, mind you, this sheriff was this judge's bailiff for a long time. So these two individuals knew each other. Goes into the courtroom, goes into the judge's chambers, which is, there's secretaries and people in the judge's chambers.
Is this over the kid stuff?
And he says, everybody needs to leave. I need to talk to the judge. They leave the room, and then they go into the side chamber. He kills him. Shoots him dead.
The judge is deceased.
The judge is deceased. Sheriff shot him dead. Now, there is... Initially, there was some, speculation. Just speculation, because they're keeping a tight lid on this. That the judge... Because the judge and him were... I don't want to say friends, because you don't ever know.
Knew each other.
Because they knew each other. The sheriff has a young daughter.
So that's what I heard.
Initially, they said...
How old is this kid?
I don't know. Initially, they said that that was what could it have been, that maybe the judge was doing something with his daughter. But now there's a report, which still could mean the same thing, but differently, that they both had their phones out and looked at their phones. And so they looked at their phones, and then the sheriff went around the table and fucking killed the judge. So, I mean, that could mean a lot of shit.
So what's that? What could that be? What's the significance of the phone? They both looked at their phone.
I don't know. Maybe the sheriff was. It doesn't make sense.
It always involves a woman.
It doesn't make sense that they were looking at their phones together. Now, the other thing is, the judge's chambers had a camera in it. All this was recorded. It doesn't make sense that they were both looking at their phones, right? Because if I was going to be like, oh, I found this fucking naked picture of you and my daughter, I don't need to be looking at the phone. I only would be looking at the phone as if I was getting a text that you were getting, right? So I don't know. Who knows what the fuck is going on? Probably, my guess is diddler, but who knows?
I saw it as factual, as that that's what it was, pedophile thing.
Well, I've been watching it. They have kind of put it under the...
And I'm always curious, too, how old is the daughter? Like, consensual? Like, doesn't make it right or allowable, 13-year-old and 50-year-old, but consensual or,
They said it was a minor. And I don't know what the legal age is in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing under the age of 17.
And I think I don't know how it is here. I think here it's 3-year separation.
Yeah, I think under the age. So who knows? Who knows what it is? But it'll be interesting to see. And then literally yesterday.
So is sheriff still in custody?
Yeah, he's still...
No bail, or they're not saying shit about it?
They're not saying shit about it.
It seems like...
Well, we just had another judge.
Yes, there's a lot of cleanup happening, it seems like.
Is it... Okay, here's the thing. Is it coordinated cleanup?
Or I don't think it's coordinated. I think that is the temperature of the nation right now.
Are we just at the peak?
I think that's what it is.
We're at the peak where people are like...
I think people's money is tight enough, and everybody knows where the corruption is, and the money is just tight enough, and the corruption is just enough, and the tyranny is just enough that you're seeing those people that feel like they have nothing to lose trying to clean it up.
Yeah, I would assume that, like I say all the time, whatever it was... Because, again, I look at a sheriff, like if I look at sheriffs, now, obviously each place is a little bit different, but even the sheriff of fucking Waverly, which is a tiny town, small sheriff's department, he's still at the top of the food chain, right? So I look at a sheriff as a good, comfortable position. So whatever it was made that fucking sheriff uncomfortable enough that he had to go in there and felt like he had to kill this guy. So, I don't know, maybe we're at a tipping point. I just saw a thing the other day, individual talking about, when we talk about left and right, and there is no, if you really think about it, there is no right violence in the United States. It's all left. That's why their agenda is getting pushed, is because it's just the left.
And you see all these videos about Civil War coming, and the books being written about the modern Civil War coming, or that we're even in the modern Civil War. The left is writing those books like that. You have these people doing these, like you see our side, right, the right side or the lesser crazy side. You see them on the talking on these podcast circuits,
yeah.
right? Because we see those podcasts. when you see the other side's podcast, when you look at the side we perceive, Gent Cougar and those, those other sides, they have leftists doing the same thing. And every now and then you'll get a leftist that will come onto Bet David's show or onto Tim Pool's show. They're writing the same they're doing the same, like, they are more inflammatory. They're much more inflammatory.
The issue is from a specific camp. If you're talking left or right, the left is more inflammatory right now because they believe that they are holding the high ground.
Yes.
Right? Because they have been able to get away with all the shenanigans that they've been able to get away with, because the cities are not reporting crimes and they're letting all these people go on the streets and because they believe that they are sitting on top of the high ground and are safe. They don't realize that it's all smoke and mirrors. They're not fucking safe at all.
So I saw a meme this morning. I've seen hundreds of these. I don't think I sent you this one. I saw a meme this morning, and it's a dude. He's obviously got a MAGA hat or MAGA shirt or something on, and he's talking. It looks like he's in a shopping mall or something, some place of commerce. There's a lot of foot traffic, and he's talking to another dude, and they're just having a normal conversation. And this dude moving past, you don't see him on the camera yet because he's facing this way. Somebody's over here and goes, "Take off that fucking MAGA hat." And he goes, "Oh, look, somebody's yelling at me. It doesn't look like he's been to the gym a day in his life and he doesn't work out." And this, and it could have very well been staged. It's crazy enough that you're like, surely that's fucking made up. And it's some weirdo in a fucking pink pair of shorts and comes up and he's like, "Take off that MAGA hat." And he says, "You haven't worked out." And the dude comes right. He goes, "What, are you going to run up on me?" He goes, "I'm going to knock your fucking ass out." And the dude ran up and kind of acted like he was going to hit him. And he's like, "You better walk the fuck away." And he goes, "That's assault. You just ran up to me. We are standing here having a conversation." And those are the videos you see. You don't see Trump supporters or people with MAGA gear or any of that shit running up to the other side. It's always the other way.
I think that
and they're getting more embrazen.
Well, I think when you think of just left politics, so forget about man on the street. When you think about left politics, they have been doing everything in their power to bait the right into a fight. And like, they want a fight. They really do. Left politics wants a fight with the right. And they have been attempting to bait the right into a fight for a long time. And for whatever reason, whether it's just because we're comfortable, the right is not taking it. Well, the problem is
it's making them more emboldened.
Problem because of the tactics that they're using.
Because nobody's punching them in the mouth.
It's trickling down to people who are actually going to get hurt.
Yeah, they're becoming the bullies.
Yeah.
And the people being bullied they're not standing up. And you know why they're not standing up? Because when they do stand up, that's the person the police officers arrest. The police don't enforce policy unless the policy is made by the government controlling those police officers, just like the judges, right? The judges kind of control the town.
Well,
the judges only control the town because law enforcement will follow those policies.
But again, do you want to spend your afternoon? Do you want to? Because it does boil down to the left is a bunch of lunatics, and the right are
they don't want the paperwork.
People. Do you want to spend even if you're totally in the right? Do you want to spend the afternoon with law enforcement explaining to them why this fucking nut job tried to attack you and you fucking laid him out? No, you would rather just be like, "Bro, you're going to get fucked up. I don't have time for you." You know, that I think that's kind of the issue.
When we get to but everything's recorded.
Yeah.
There's evidence of all of it.
Correct.
When a dude runs up to you, I saw one this morning. Dude runs up and starts fucking beating the shit out of this passenger in the van, and the wife or girl or mother, I don't know who he was beating. He was beating the shit out of somebody through this van, and there was two dudes beating this fucking person in this van, and I believe it's mom or wife, fucking put 3 rounds through the fucking window, and the dude starts jumping around, but the ass whipping stopped. Now, who got arrested? I'm sure the firearm owner was arrested at the minimum, at least.
Maybe not.
But there is evidence of all of that shit. That dude that ran up to that guy and fucking threw a punch that missed, and then he fucking caught his arm, fucking kicked him in his fucking ribs or fucking punched him in the mouth, whatever. That should be mutual combat. Like if you fucking run up, even pretending, like you, I mean, we saw in the last year, right? You have this YouTube channel that just walks around with these fucking supposed bodyguards or whatever, and he walks up to people in the mall and talks all kinds of shit, and he was pretending to pull a gun on somebody, and the dude in the mall smoked this motherfucker, shot him.
The dude in the mall got off, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how it fucking should be. If you do stupid shit, whether
Well,
because I can't go into a fucking bank with a note
It says,
and say I have a gun even when I don't. I still get charged as though I had a gun. So if you come up to me in public and threaten me and pretend to fucking assault me and I whip your fucking ass, that should be the fucking end of it.
yeah, but I think we get a little cringy about stuff as far as when we talk about like who's going to jail and who's not going to jail. I do believe that most of that stuff is, 90% of that stuff out there is recorded. And I think in the long run, the real victim, the person who is like for example, the shopping mall thing, the Trump guy in wear hat, I think once everything is sussed out, yeah, you might get handcuffed and put in the back of a police car, and it's going to suck for a while. But I think if you look at those actual cases, once it's sussed out, that they're not in jail anymore. They're let go. That they're vindicated in the end.
Okay, so let's use the high profile one, right? We know about the subway in New York. Black dude been arrested 73 times? All violent assaults, assault and battery.
Yeah.
Crazy dude, dresses as a street performer, Michael Jackson. Does this ring a bell?
No, but
okay.
that's all right.
So he's on the subway, comes on, says he's going to kill some people. He's fucking flinging a knife around. I believe there was a knife. Crowd tries to subdue him. The dude puts him in an arm lock and then a chokehold, chokes him out or whatever. Former Marine.
Sorry, Marine. You're always a Marine.
Okay, so where that stuff that wasn't dismissed.
No, of course it wasn't dismissed because it was fucking New York City. Again, if you're, I can't help it if you're living in a place that doesn't have real laws. I can't help that.
Meanwhile, you have.
But I doubt if he went to jail.
No, he absolutely went to jail.
I don't think he did. I think,
look that up.
I don't think he did.
Yeah, he absolutely went to jail. He's still going through court.
Well, he may still be going through
There was a
court,
whole GoFundMe to get him out, and they fucking took the money from the GoFundMe that was being raised for him.
I don't think he'll go to jail because that's the same thing. That's the same thing when they had the same incident in New York City where the I don't know if it was a meat place or like a deli, where a dude comes in with a knife and tries to kill the owner of the deli, and the deli owner fucking blasts him. They arrested the fuck out of that guy, put him in jail, and made a big fucking deal about it. But once everything hit the blotter, they're like, "All right, fuck off, go home."
Did you see the guy in the vape shop in Las Vegas?
A
couple years ago.
Which one? Where
dude comes in, and he fucking stabs him up a few times. He's like, "Oh shit, you killed me!" And the kid fucking, there was two of them robbing him.
Oh, I've seen that.
And he, I think it was a knife. I think dude looked like he knew how to use that fucking knife. And he fucking popped him a couple times. Boom, 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 boom. Got the whole fucking cavity. And the kid's like, "Oh my God, you killed me." And I believe the one kid died. And that was kind of like, I don't think he was actually taken into custody. I think that was like, you came in and threatened us. I think the kid had a gun.
The reality is there's millions of cases each day. Each case gets adjudicated on its own. But I think for the majority, I mean, if you really look at what's going on, the majority of the cases, I don't want to say the right, because it's not the right. It's the way the legal system should work. The majority of the cases are adjudicated in the favor of the way they should be.
After it ruins your life, though. And then maybe
I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse's life was ruined.
Hold on. Even when they are found not guilty, they shouldn't even be found not guilty. It should be even fucking better than that, right? So even when they're found not guilty, the family of the deceased or the family of the injured still has a fucking civil lawsuit. Kyle Rittenhouse, they said Kyle Rittenhouse owes millions of dollars to these pieces of shit.
They don't owe any money to anybody.
Do you know that Alex Jones, they're dissolving his whole, Value InfoWars, shutting it all down like this Wednesday or something over this fucking lawsuit and shit?
Of his lawsuit, yeah.
Now, what I said on that, I'm like, he'll never pay that. those massive things, right? They just start another company, and he will be an employee, and somebody else will own that other LLC or that other corporation.
In theory, yeah.
Hopefully.
In theory, I don't know. He's pretty quiet.
But that is the government going after him.
He is pretty quiet.
The same government that is tasked to. Did you see the second Trump shooter? Who's the prosecuting judge on that? The same judge that's after fucking Trump. One of the same judges that put all these charges on Trump is the judge.
Well, judges don't put charges; prosecutors do.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
Did you find anything?
I mean, he was charged with manslaughter.
Yeah, I know he's charged with manslaughter.
I don't know if he's still in jail.
What's his name?
His name is Daniel Penny.
Look up Daniel Penny, and then guilty or not guilty ? See what comes up.
Anyways, so, I mean, again, if you've made the choice to roll the dice and live in one of those places, I can't help you. The system, there's no law and order. There's no law in New York City, except the whim of whoever's in charge, right? So that's why you leave New York City. You leave New York City because they don't care about the people of New York City.
I say the same thing every night about California. There's always it's
California.
weird, right? Because every night on live feed.
But that depends on where you're at in California.
Absolutely does. Every night on live feed, dude's like, well, I'm staying here because if I leave, I'm just like giving up. Dude, you have no idea how much better your life gets when you just leave California. Did you see Gavin Newsom? They say Gavin Newsom. I don't know who's actually, but you're not allowed to post any memes or they call it deep fakes. But basically, you're not allowed to say any memes that are against the the politics in California. I don't know how they're going to enforce that, but.
With a Stasi police force?
It seems it. What do you got?
October 4th is his trial. Hasn't happened yet.
So is he in custody?
No, he's out on bond.
Yeah, I mean, the only way they can do it is with a crony police department.
Did you see Diddy's on Suicide Watch?
Yeah, but of course. I mean, he has to be on Suicide Watch.
Yeah. So
he's in the same, he's in,
yes.
They put him in the exact, it's like, that's the kill house.
Yeah.
Just forget it. But the reality is, forget about Epstein. Forget about Epstein. Forget about whatever conspiracy theory you have in your head. I mean, the reality is Diddy has to be on Suicide Watch. Like, he has to be. Because you think about where he was, at what level he was.
Well, explain that.
And now
do you think Diddy's suicidal?
Yeah, I do believe.
Or do you think they classify him as that so that they?
Well, he's protective custody for sure because he's a fucking billionaire, right? And the minute Diddy hits a yard, he's getting pressed, right? He's getting pressed. He's paying no matter where they put him. Like no matter where they put him, checks are going to start coming from what's his record label?
I have no idea.
Boy.
Yeah,
He owns Bad Boy.
Yeah.
Checks are going to start coming from Bad Boy Records that are going to be getting deposited into accounts within that prison. Diddy's falling in line. He's getting punked. He's falling in line. He's going to be somebody's bitch in there.
Have you seen the videos of Hillary Clinton? They're obviously AI, but they're fucking pretty damn good, dude. They're like, so are you going to kill Diddy in the same manner? And it's this whole Hillary Clinton talking about how she was going to kill him, but she's going to do it these other ways. Did you see there's a cartoon. I don't know what cartoon it's supposed to be, but Diddy shows up and Tupac's there and Michael Jackson's there and a bunch of people. And they're like, you're bringing too much heat to us. You need to go back and fake your death. Go ahead and fake a suicide. Then you can come here and you can be with us. And Michael Jackson's like, you're too old for me. I'm not into you.
I mean, I saw a thing yesterday where they're saying that Diddy actually has the evidence on the Tupac murder.
Well, there's a lot of people saying he killed Tupac. Yeah.
Well, so the issue is,
or had him killed.
I can't think of the guy's name. He's actually doing interviews.
Suge Knight?
No. It's a gang member that says that Diddy paid him $1 million to kill fucking Tupac. Now,
a lot of people say LAPD was involved with that.
He has just been arrested. So this dude, not just arrested, but in recent zeitgeist, this gang member's been arrested, and he has a video he has this like video where he's talking to Diddy and he's like, bro, you need to fucking help me. Right. And it's just a random game member. And I got most of this from there's a podcast, or not a podcast. It was a video on YouTube about the beef between Diddy and 50 Cent. And it's 50 Cent who's like on tour going, motherfucking Diddy killed Tupac. So
yeah. So Ice Cube has come out in the last couple of days and told 50 Cent, like, you better watch yourself, man. I'm not involved in any of this. That's why I've always said I'm neutral everywhere. I've never claimed anything. Like, I'm independent. And 50 Cent is like, or Ice Cube is like, 50 Cent, man, you better watch, be careful.
I don't know. I think that it's just interesting to see that, because remember, Diddy was a organizer for the Democratic Party since Clinton.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Diddy is a paid organizer for the DNC since Bill Clinton, and raised a ton of money for them, and also did a whole like whatever gangster rap get out the vote bullshit, right?
Well, so did Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah, what I'm saying is
who has apparently gone missing.
Because the problem is I think the problem for a lot of people in that universe is for a long time they were a protected class, and they felt like they were a protected class.
Well, they were.
So certain things were doable, right? Certain things were doable, and the problem when you feel like you're a protected class, even if you're J-Lo and you just hanging out on the side, you saw some shit or you did some shit because you thought it was all good to go. And now you're wondering, you're on the side going, motherfucker, when I walked through the house to go to the bathroom, did he get me on camera doing some shit? You know what I'm saying? They're all fucking connected. They're all connected.
They call that conspiracy.
Yeah. Well, they're getting them for that. The reality is they only named him.
Diddy?
Yeah, they only named Diddy in all the charges, but they're calling it they're treating it just like a mob thing. So there are more names that are going to fucking fall.
Cat Williams called all this shit.
Yeah, but, I mean, Cat Williams did, but I get everybody's.
So did Chappelle.
I get everybody's fucking. I get everybody is like, Cat Williams called it, Chappelle called it. People are saying this shit.
Carlin fucking called it.
But the reality is, not really. I mean, really, if you knew some real me calling somebody evil because I knew they did some evil shit, that hasn't helped anybody. Like, the dude has been doing his shit for 20 years. You didn't help nobody. It's kind of like
when they got.
I'll give you an example. So Joe Rogan had a TV show way back.
Several of them. Which one are we talking about?
The
Fear Factor?
No, the first one he did, it was a comedy where he played it was a radio station, and he was like the guy who fucking, it was really his first breakout. It was
okay.
I can't think of the name of the show. But he talks about the fact, so this would have been in the 80s. He talks about a fact that at that time people would be like, yeah, don't be in a room alone with Harvey Weinstein.
Well, yeah, and that was Oprah's boy.
But people talked about it back then. Now, again, if you know some fact about somebody that they're committing illegal acts, or even, what would you call what he was doing? But illegal acts, and your way of dealing with the illegal acts is going, well, I'm just never going to be in the same room with him. All you're doing is perpetuating the crime.
Would Joe Rogan even be where he is right now if he had said that back then? They would have ended him right then.
True.
You wouldn't even know his name.
True,
they would have probably killed him. Imagine how easy it was to kill people then.
True, but there were people who, for example, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt took Harvey Weinstein to the wall when he was not Brad Pitt, because Weinstein did the penis trick on his girlfriend.
I don't know what that is.
It's the come up. Hey, I'm gonna be at the fucking Waldorf Astoria Hotel on Thursday at around 9 p.m. Why don't you come up and read a line for one of my movies? And then, lo and behold, old girl would go up to the room, which, why would you go to a fucking hotel? Again, we're perpetuating things. Knocks on the door, come in, and Weinstein's standing there with his fucking dick out. Right? He did the dick move on one of Brad Pitt's girl.
There's a ton of rappers out right now saying, Diddy was having gay sex with this dude. Fresh Prince is one of them. He walked in and he's wearing the Fresh Prince. There's a bunch of that.
Who's your boy? Who's your boy that you love? The Canadian?
Tom McDonald?
No, the Canadian who was with. He's Canadian. Hanging out with Diddy since he's 15.
Are you talking about Justin Bieber?
Oh shit! There's a lot of
a lot of those songs mean a lot of shit now.
No, but there is a lot of former Diddy employees saying they've got video of Justin or Bieber
of Diddy having sex with Bieber. Yeah. So there's a female. Diddy had said, "Man, I couldn't run any of my operations without this person," and the speculation is that is the actual handler in all of this. That is Ghislaine Maxwell.
One of the things,
or the facilitator.
One of the things that this is why they're going after him. They're going after him like the mob. Is one of the things that they talk about is there's not a facilitator.
I don't think they're going after him like the mob. I think they're going after him to get the evidence to protect themselves. I think they're complacent. I have no doubt they're going to burn Diddy.
Diddy's going 40 years.
But this is all about getting any proof that they were involved in it. Your people running the government.
I mean, you have a FBI. You have an FBI. We currently have an FBI that is more Hoover FBI.
Yeah, they're not in there looking for evidence. They're in there looking for shit that would incriminate themselves.
No, I don't believe that at all. I believe that the FBI is doing the same thing that Hoover did when he was the director of the FBI. What they are doing is hoovering up every piece of fucking material that's out there that incriminates other people.
Yes, to use it against them.
But
them. But also to protect their own judges and shit.
They don't need to protect anybody. The FBI doesn't need to protect anybody. The FBI, they came out and were like, "Yeah, we were trying to get Martin Luther King to commit suicide. Did we close the FBI over that? No." The FBI, they knew what Hoover was doing. Blackmail.
You guys should remember that.
That's blackmail. Did we close the FBI? No.
Like when they want you and they need to sway popular opinion, they'll just put kiddie porn on your shit. You notice how many people that are involved in some shit and all of a sudden they just came out and say kiddie porn and nobody pays any attention to it after that? Like the Trump shooter, right? That just tried to shoot Trump on the golf course. Did you see the firearm? Did you see the gun? Describe it.
It'd be like if I told Brandel to make a sniper rifle.
To make a clown gun.
If I said, Brandel, make me a sniper rifle. I think that's what it would look like.
So it's an
You know what's crazy? This is the crazy thing, John. I want you to think about this. There was 1 round in the chamber.
10 more?
10 more in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Then why did you put a 30-round extended mag on it?
Yeah.
Why did you put a 30-round extended mag on there if you only had the capacity of the original gun in it?
Not only that, the scope was taped onto the gun.
So
maybe not on the. Maybe there's a mount on the front, but that's tape around.
I'm gonna tell you. There is for the SKS. There is a bullshit top cover that you can buy that has a scope mount on it. It's terrible. It's literally shit. It's basically Chinese garbage from the 80s, so it's really bad. So what he had did is he had mounted that scope in that scope mount, and then he took hose clamps and put hose clamps all the way around the gun and hose clamped it down, and then took electrical tape and put it over the fucking hose clamps.
Okay.
That's how shit show. That I don't know. I think if I was Trump, I'd have been like, because the hole where he would have saw him first was 400 yards away. If I was Trump, I'd be like, let him take one. Let him take one. I don't think he's going to hit the fucking broadside of a barn.
But he didn't know what gun was in there or anything.
No, I know. I know. He wasn't even in range. When it happened. He wasn't even view. So,
and that's what the mass media is trying to point out. There was never an assassination attempt. He wasn't in danger. The shooter never saw Trump, and that's how mainstream's portraying this. Now the guy,
well, he didn't see Trump because
the Secret Service fired 4 rounds at him from pistols.
Secret Service agent saw him.
Yeah. So
it's still an assassination attempt.
And when you see. It's weird, right? So Secret Service fired at this. They say the barrel was poking through the fence, okay? So he's obviously shooting or he's prone or something, right? They say he was prone because he's hiding behind these backpacks with the ceramic plates. They keep saying ceramic tiles. I don't know if they were actual ceramic tiles or if they were in fact ceramic plates. This is the first time I've ever heard the use of obliterated also. Anytime you've ever heard of a serial number, they use other terms for it. I've never heard obliterated until this specific incident. Have you ever noted? You hear defaced serial number or ground out serial number. I've never heard obliterated.
You know what's interesting about, and you'll remember this. You'll remember this once I tell you this. Interesting about the SKS rifle, especially the Chinese rifle, which that is.
So it was a Norinco.
I don't know if it was a Norinco.
So I kept hearing in Russian.
No, it's a Chinese. It's a Chinese SKS. They have multiple serial numbers. They're stamped in multiple places. Now, the main serial number that is the requirement for the United States is on the side of the receiver, and it'll be like the serial number, and then underneath it'll say who imported it in the United States and all that shit. But the Chinese themselves put serial numbers on those guns too. So there's a fucking serial number on the side of the magazine. There's a serial number, I believe, on the gas block. So there's a serial number on that gun.
So,
now, they may be just so incompetent at that level that they don't understand that, but there's a serial number on it.
So something I heard Bear...
But again, it doesn't matter.
Something I heard Bear say this morning was this. So this dude was so calm and he had the wherewithal. They say that the barrel was poking through the fence, but they shoot at this dude 4 times. And he props his rifle up against the fence and then fucking just gets out of there.
Well, that may be the issue that you may be running into.
They staged it for the photo.
It's a post picture, right? It's probably I'd have to look at the picture, but the first thing. So what's going to happen is, as soon as the shooter's down, or the area is vacated, right? The Secret Service is going to move onto that position, and the first thing they're going to do is clear the rifle.
Got it.
And so they probably leaned it up against the fence. I mean, that's just what they do. It's no different than the dude on the roof.
So what about we know of 5 hit teams in the United States targeting Trump. What about that?
I don't know.
Matt Gaetz, I think, came out and said that.
I would assume that with the psychosis that is running through the Democratic Party, I'll bet it's a lot more. I bet there's a lot more people sitting in their basements with ice picks going, if I can just get close to him.
So everybody's saying...
Because they're fucking all crazy.
So you're starting to hear that this second shooter, this dude, the guy who was in Ukraine or whatever, that they got at the golf course. They're now saying he's not second, he's actually third, because they came out with all this information yesterday that they have actually stopped a guy from Iran who was in the United States, had all this paperwork, and
who was offering money
to kill Trump. Dude, that shit came out like 3 weeks ago. Yeah. And they've just rehashed it as though it just happened again.
It's a weird news cycle. Yeah. Do you think, how about this though? Do you think, even with all the DEI hires that are going on in government, do you think that the Secret Service agents that are on Trump's detail, do you think they're happy about all these assassination attempts, or do you think they're sad? They're like, oh my God, I hope I don't get killed. And the only reason why I bring that up is it's like imagine training your whole life for this one specific event, and it never happens, and then now all of a sudden you're hanging out with a dude where it's like every week it's happening. Like you finally get to get in the game. Like there has to be certain guys. There has to be some of those guys have to be like, fuck yeah, I'm glad I'm on Trump's detail.
I'm of the belief that they're not Secret Service.
Oh no, they're Secret Service.
No, I don't think they're Secret Service. It came out. There's a bunch of information, as a matter of fact, out at the Pennsylvania shooting, where the first one actually took place. That most of those were actually Homeland Security fill-ins, and the only indoctrination or training they had was a 60-minute online course. And there's a bunch of shit out there. There's some whistleblowers saying not only was it only 1 hour, the audio was off for over half of it.
I would assume that Donald Trump.
I would assume that too.
Donald Trump, especially as a former president of the United States.
Why would he not have some of his same Secret Service
knows
detail?
who his Secret Service detail is, and I mean, were there Homeland Security guys out there? Of course, because there's Homeland Security guys everywhere now. But his actual detail, like Superman, who was 6 foot, the 6 foot dude who's standing on behind Trump after the assassination attempt, that guy's Secret Service. I think that the reality is there's a lot of people armchair quarterbacking what went on down there. And
how do you think this guy knew to be there?
Who, the shooter?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is some speculation that the Secret Services
leaking his shit.
No, that the communication system is compromised.
Which would mean somebody inside is leaking his shit.
Maybe, but
it's not like purple hair fucking
no, but yeah,
goofball fucking intercepted and encrypted it.
The reality is, I have no idea where Harris. I have no idea where Harris is. I have no idea what Harris's schedule is. Okay? If I really sat down and spent 20 minutes looking at what she's doing, where she's currently going, I guarantee the reality is the rallies are published. So I could find, it's not like, I get it, routes and things like that are secret information because you don't want to know, you don't want to pre-let people know.
Yeah,
where
it said they actually do 3 routes.
Yeah, you don't want to pre-let people know where you're going or what you're doing. But it wouldn't be hard to find out that the president was golfing. It wouldn't be hard to find out that, Harris is in Pennsylvania. It just wouldn't be. The problem for all of them, to include, Harris, Trump, Biden, it's too big of a footprint. They create a huge footprint. So if you are a
But the shooter in Florida,
what about him?
Where did he drive from?
North Carolina or South Carolina, maybe from the Carolinas. Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to figure out that Trump he goes and golfs fucking like 4 times a week, so it wouldn't be hard to figure out he was there. And that spot is a known spot.
Did you hear Trump's going back to do another rally in Butler, Pennsylvania?
Good for Trump.
Yeah,
good for Trump.
Yeah,
I bet. Hey,
did you hear Trump say he's not doing another fucking debate with Harris?
Yeah, he shouldn't. I'll bet there's somebody on the roof this time. I'll bet there's somebody standing on that motherfucking roof this time.
Did you see local SWAT said we talked to Secret Service and they said they had the roof?
Yeah. Here's the thing. The problem for the problem for Secret Service is it was well within their perimeter rating anyways. And there were people there in that building, and they were in the building in windows looking at the spot where old boy was shot from. So, and we still, when you see all the video of the 2 Secret Service guys on the roof with the sniper rifles, right? They keep showing those guys. They are not the ones who engaged the fucking. We still don't even know where Secret Service.
Yeah, you don't know shit about that, but you know fucking everything about this fucking guy that went to Ukraine. Wild.
Well, I mean, he's that's different with the dude, the Ukraine dude. That's different. He had a footprint, right? He had a footprint, and he was doing something that required him to be in the face of media. So he had a footprint. So you would expect that there to be some crossover. If I said John was recruiting fucking soldiers for the Ukrainian army, if I said you'd spend a year recruiting dudes for the Ukrainian army, and there was no footprint, that would be weird.
Did you hear that Customs or Homeland Security, somebody had fucking flagged that guy multiple times, reported him to the FBI as a person of interest, said you guys should be watching this dude. He's all over the radar.
Yeah, he's all over the radar.
It's weird they were both in BlackRock commercials.
It is weird. That is weird.
Odd.
It's weird. And who stands to lose a lot of money Trump becomes president.
Mm-hmm.
BlackRock. But why would a corporation want to kill the president? I don't know.
Weird.
It is weird.
Same reason corporations pick the president.
So
what's going on in Israel?
they're attempting to start a war with Iran.
It's been announced that we're putting 40,000 more U.S. troops there yesterday.
They're attempting to start a war with Iran in order to drag the United States into a conflict that regime changes in the country of Iran. That's the whole point of this. I don't know. Do you remember there was a
Was it in the 70s? When was the Iran very open and free and women were walking
70s,
around? Yeah.
That was under the Shah. He was
Which didn't the CIA overthrow the Shah?
No, the CIA put the Shah in power.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was the early 80s. Sorry, guys, especially if you were on the ship. I don't remember. We had a ship off the coast of Israel. We had a ship off the coast of Israel, and that ship was a spy ship. Was a U.S. spy ship, but that ship was off the coast of Israel, international waters.
Is this a limpet mine?
No, I don't even think this ship was. I really don't even think they were spying on Israel. Israel knew the ship was there, and so Israel attacked the ship. And they
with what?
With aircraft. They tried to sink the ship.
Is this a military vessel?
It is a U.S. naval
flagged U.S.
I believe so. I believe it was flagged U.S. It was a note. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it had a fucking Peruvian flag.
Everybody knew it was a CIA ship.
It was a known U.S. Navy. It wasn't even a CIA ship. It was a Navy spy ship. Okay. So the Israelis attack it. They kill some crew members. They keep attacking it. They're trying to sink this boat. The reality is the U.S. Navy does not come to the aid of the ship. And Israel is never punished for it. The Israelis, this is how this was going to work. The Israelis were going to sink this ship, and then it was going to get blamed on Iran, and we would be at war with Iran. The Israelis have always been trying to get us to go with a war with Iran.
Another Tonkin Bay thing.
Because it's their thorn in their side. They can't. The reality is the Israelis do not have the manpower to go to war with Iran, and also they would rather see Americans killed than Israelis.
So was the U.S. complacent in this?
In what? Oh yeah.
This was the plan with the United States and Israel, most likely.
I don't know about the Navy vessel.
That's what I'm asking.
But the Navy certainly didn't do anything about it. Like, we didn't go over there and shoot down them fucking A6 Sky Raiders, which we should have. We should have as soon as those fucking planes landed.
What's the difference between an A6 Sky Raider and an A6 Intruder?
Big difference. Totally two different aircraft. Yeah. I mean, the reality is we should have carpet bombed that airfield that those planes came from. But we for whatever reason, we decided not to.
Well, it was decided prior.
I don't know if it was decided prior. That's a thing that you don't want. The reality is if you want a successful coup, or you want a successful anything, covert operation,
you can't be caught later.
The less people that know, the less people who are in on the overall scheme of things, the better off you are, right? In the long run, the better off you are. It's better that the crew of the ship has no idea what they're doing. You're just like, here's your orders. You're going to go off the coast of fucking Israel, and you're going to listen for Iranian whatever. See if Iranians are farting. It's better if nobody knows. Even at the big level. Like, the reality is you don't want the admiral to know. You want the admiral to react to said incident as if it was a real, because of course it was a real thing for the crew, but if it was a real attack from the Iranians. They did the same thing down in South America. They blew up a bar with Americans in it, hoping that we would go to war with Iran. I mean, it's an interesting time to live in the world. First off, Donald Trump's going to win in a landslide. The election will be over by 10 p.m.
Did you see that? They're already voting, right?
Everything that you see that the Democrat Party and all the news outlets are doing is propaganda. It's all propaganda. It's not real. So Donald Trump is going to he's going to slay them so badly that it's unbelievable.
Go out in public.
Yeah, in public.
Go out in public and go, just hold a sign. Who are you voting for? And the majority of the people are going to, if they're willing to have the conversation, they're going to say Trump.
Yeah.
And the ones that come up that say the other side, they're gonna be crazy. They're gonna look crazy. They're not going to look like they're employable.
The reality, there's certain places you're not going to win, right? You can't win in California. He's not going to win in California,
which is fucking insane.
He's not going to win in California. He's not going to win in certain blue
hubs. A bunch
hubs.
of DMVs have already been busted registering illegal aliens to vote at the DMV. Yeah. People have even called the police. The police have responded.
The interesting thing is, you make a lot of assumptions, right? Like if you come from, let's say I come from Venezuela and I just saw what a liberalized communist government does to your country, and I fled there because I don't like eating cats, and I come to America for an opportunity.
But who let them in?
The Democrats, because
they know that. Who are they going to vote for?
The Democrats.
Who's giving them EBT cards?
The Democrats are assuming they are going to vote for him. They are assuming they're going to vote for him. But the Democrats even still have not given anybody a reason to vote for them. Like they don't. The IRS union has thrown,
which should not even be legal to say.
No, it shouldn't be illegal to say. But again, the IRS union has thrown their hat in the Harris camp.
The Koala Harris.
So if you're an American and you live anywhere in the United States, that is really the only you should be like, what? The IRS?
Yeah, no matter what you are you for the IRS?
The IRS endorses Kamala Harris? Let's vote for her. Why would anybody fucking support that?
Have you seen the numbers? Have you seen the numbers on what this unearned income tax is going to do? This unearned incomes?
No, I don't know.
Oh, it's fucking trillions of dollars. Fucking trillions of dollars. Like, most people can't buy a house.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris is going to give them $25,000 for a down payment to get a house. How the fuck do they qualify for a loan? You're talking about most of these people who don't even, like, how the fuck are you going to fucking service the loan?
We went through that in the 2000s. The banks did that.
Yeah.
And then the banks all failed.
Mm-hmm.
So
she's going to give these people $25,000 to get a down payment. Yeah, if it even happens, right? And then you buy this house, right? You buy this house for $100,000, and then it goes up in value, right? So now it's $150,000, but you're in it for $100,000. You now have a profit if you could sell this thing of $50,000, and you're going to have to pay fucking 50% of the unearned income for the next year. So now you got to come up. You couldn't come up with $25,000 down payment for the house. You're going to have to come up with $25,000 to pay the fucking unearned income.
You know what's going to happen? Are you ready? Are you ready? You're going to have a bunch of people who are going to go out. Let's just throw the conspiracy out there. You're going to have a bunch of people. They're going to go out that cannot qualify for a loan and cannot possibly pay back said loan and purchase houses. Okay, they're going to purchase houses. Then the government is going to go after that earned income because the house went up in value, and you aren't going to be able to pay for it. So you know what that means? The government is going to foreclose on your house. The government will foreclose on your house.
So this is just more of the government owning the houses.
Well, no. This is what's going to happen. So normally, when you think about it, when a house forecloses, the bank owns it. So whatever local municipality, the bank owns it, and the bank's got to figure out how to sell that motherfucker. So let's say, I don't know. Let's just say there's 1 million houses over the next year that get foreclosed on because the government gave you a loan that you couldn't afford in the first place to buy a house that you could never pay for in the first place. That house was on the market. It was on the market for anyone to buy. But I unfairly gave you an advantage to buy it because I gave you money that wasn't yours. So now you buy it. Now it forecloses. Now who owns it? Not a bank. A government. The U.S. government owns it. And so now I have all these houses that are foreclosed on that the U.S. government owns. What does the U.S. government do with a bunch of houses it owns? It sells them. Who has the financial capability to buy them? BlackRock. Mm-hmm. So in 5 years, guys, those houses will all owned by BlackRock.
I saw last week that they numbers say that 48% of people that hold real estate licenses sold 0 houses this last 12 months. 48% of licensed real estate agents sold 0 homes.
Yeah, I don't.
And they're saying that, I think the number was higher than that. They're saying that they expect 50% of people who hold licenses to not renew this year.
Maybe true. Maybe true. I don't know. I don't know what the housing market looks like.
And they said of those that did sell homes, I think the number was 60-70% sold between 1 and 2 homes.
Yeah, I mean, that's not good.
No.
Not good if that's your main source of income.
I noticed when I was driving past it's a Dodge Jeep dealership. They had so much inventory. They were not only on their lot, they were on the construction site next to them. As far as you could see, brand new Dodge trucks, brand new Jeeps. And when I go look over there, what do you see? She's like, a lot of trucks and cars. And they said there's nobody there. Like we're here on Saturday at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. You see one person there. There's nobody there looking at these things. There's nobody shopping for these things.
Well, we have a when you're talking about automobiles, or when you're talking about major big ticket items like automobiles, boats, whatever, we have a perfect storm. We have a perfect storm of things going on right now that it's going to be hard for them to fix, in the sense of this. When you see the car lot with all those cars on there, two things happened. One, we had a severe lack of inventory during COVID because of work and also because of chips. Okay,
so the wave is caught up.
So the wave is caught up. So during COVID, everybody was still ordering trucks. And the plants were still making trucks. But also during COVID, the U.S. government devalued the fucking dollar by giving everybody free money. And so the price of those trucks exponentially went up because of two things. One, because of the shortage, right? Obviously, the less inventory you have, the more you can charge for it. And just because of the devaluation of the dollar, right? So what has happened is those type of automobiles, just a fucking Ford F-350
$100,000 truck
has become exponentially unavailable for regular people. Meaning, how do you get a fucking loan for $100,000 for a car? You can't get a loan for a house.
So the way they're doing them, right? People don't go in and go, I can afford a $30,000 vehicle. They go in and go, I can afford a $300 a month payment. Okay, so they're buying a truck at $300 a month, $400 a month, but they're running those loans for 7 to 10 years now.
Well, no, correct. So when it first happened, and those trucks were in the $70,000 range, banks were doing that. They were doing creative.
Well, they were also banks were not checking. They
were doing creative financing in order for somebody to be able to afford a $72,000 truck. But a couple of things have happened. The inventory has caught up, so there's way too many trucks. Prices have not dropped, but banks got butt fucked by COVID money because people were getting free money.
And most of your banks are gone.
Yeah, but so those foreclosures are the cars being brought back. Fuck the banks. Not that banks get fucked, but you know what I'm saying. It fucked the banks. They don't offer those 10-year loans anymore. You can't go. Me right now could not go to the fucking Ford dealership and buy a $100,000 car. They'd be like, you can't afford it, bro.
You bought a truck in the last year.
I did.
What's your length of payments on that?
36 months.
Got it.
Yeah. You can't those COVID loans that they were doing to fucking kind of pad the car industry, they're done. They're not doing those anymore. So if you want to buy a fucking Ford fucking Raptor that's $150,000, you better bring $50,000 in there cash.
Yeah. Same with
that's why
everything.
And that's why all that shit's sitting on the lot.
There's a collapse happening. People just don't realize
we are running to the top of the hill. Now, I think my opinion is we're running to the top of this big fucking wave. My opinion is we're at the point right now where you can kind of see over it. You're like
every now and then
I can see the horizon, but it's coming down. And I think the reality is I think that's why there's fucking 2 carrier groups over fucking off the coast of Iran.
Because we need a war for the economy.
We need a distraction. We need a serious distraction, and that would be a serious distraction.
So speaking of distraction, while all this Diddy stuff was happening,
because the reality is, you have a war in Iran. The fucking economy completely whatever happens, the economy completely tanks in the United States. The Federal Reserve comes out and is like, hey, dollars suck. What would be really cool is if you had this digital currency, because we're going to trade. And then that's how they fix the economy, by creating another fake fiat currency.
That's what they want, right? Because then they can turn off anybody that doesn't agree with them as well. Israel, for instance, said they're turning off all cash. It has to only be digital in Israel right now. Okay. So anybody against the war, they can just shut your banking down. They can just shut your shit off, right? They have full control over how you act on social media and what you do. The same time the Diddy shit was happening, even this just happened, World Health Organization had a UN meeting I believe it was in New York, and it is said that our United States government has signed on. But it's been said many times that this has happened. We haven't seen it executed or exercised, but World Health takes control during any type of pandemic and supersedes what your constitution and what your sovereignty says.
That'll never happen. I actually saw a pretty good podcast. I saw recently a pretty good podcast where they talk about that, and it seems to prove out relevant when you really look at things. Is what happens is we sign on to these things. We sign on to them not because Denmark is going to come into the United States and enforce some fucking COVID law. It's never going to happen. We sign on to those things because it puts us in a position of power, and it allows us, through those organizations, to bully the rest of the world into doing something we want them to do. That's the thing that people don't understand. Like when people talk about, there's going to be blue helmets in the United States. Guys, I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to everybody. We're the bullies. Nobody is coming here.
U.S. troops ever put on a blue helmet?
I wore a blue beret in Somalia because I found one and it was cool.
Right, but a U.S. service member never wears a UN.
No,
helmet.
when we are under the flag, so
of the UN,
U.S. personnel have been under the flag of the UN. We wear regular shit. We don't ever put on a blue beret because what ends up happening again because that's the thing that people don't understand. We are the bullies. The United States is the bullies. When we fall under when we loan 10th Mountain to the UN to enforce will in Mogadishu, Boutros Ghali, the Secretary General, doesn't make decisions for those troops. They put out guidelines. They're like, hey, you know what would be really cool? Is if you guys didn't kill everybody in fucking Mogadishu. It'd be really cool. But as far as execution of the daily operations within those commands, they do what the fuck they want. They do what the fuck they want because we're the enforcer. There's nobody else. There's nobody else within the UN that can do what we can do.
What do you think the urgency all of a sudden Congress is talking about in a mass casualty event where much of Congress gets wiped out? They want to have some new Powers Act where they can just put people in place immediately without it having to go to vote and such. What do you think the big talk about that is all of a sudden?
There could be a lot of reasons. One is the fact that we are exponentially moving towards a scenario where regular people can manipulate and make weapons of mass destruction. So we're exponentially...
what are we calling weapons? This retard that was supposed to shoot at Trump
the reality is
and what was his weapon of mass destruction?
Well, it wasn't really. But what I'm saying is...
he had a weapon of mass destruction charge, and when you flesh that out, what they're calling a weapon of mass destruction charge in his history, it was a machine gun.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. But what I'm saying is, with what is going on with the manipulation of bird flu and swine flu and we're at a capability now where really lower level elements
I see
are
what you're saying. So
manipulating these things.
biologicals
So there is a point where,
or chemical.
well, I don't chemical. I think I don't want to say it's dead. I don't want to say it's dead, but I think the research on chemical weapons is kind of dead from the sense of we can do so much more with a biological weapon now than we ever could before. Like it was very shady on how we were doing that, and that's why we kind of stayed away from biological weapons. But now they can manipulate it in such a manner that, I mean, Corona 2.0 might be really serious.
Yeah, I mean, we've already got a bird flu vaccine out there that Pfizer's building. I mean, we have all kinds of shit.
That's different. That's different. So if you go conspiracy route and you're like, hey, Corona, the only reason why Corona was released is so Pfizer could sell billions of dollars in vaccines. Maybe true, maybe not. I don't know. But the reality is, I'm talking about non-state entities. Like non-state entities. Yeah. There are dudes now that could get the equipment and have the knowledge and wherewithal to make Corona 2.0.
Well, I mean, they found laboratories in California, multiples, one in Texas. I mean, who knows who that was? So, was that China? Was that our government? Who was that?
That may be our government. It may be our government saying, hey, we understand that these non-state, that, while we talk about terrorists in the past.
Yeah, what is that today?
A terrorist today can do a lot more than a terrorist ever could do 20 years ago if they really put their mind to it. There's all kinds of shit though, John. We are in a CERN universe. We're not in the real universe. We're in the CERN universe.
Yeah, what were you talking about earlier with multiple? What were you saying?
Have you ever
multiple dimensions or timelines? You say.
Have you ever heard? When you think, because you're old like me. Have you ever heard of another moon orbiting the planet? Have you ever heard anybody talk about a celestial body coming into our universe and orbiting the planet for a period of time and then leaving?
Do you want my mainstream answer or the real answer?
I want the answer.
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Because this month we're having 2 moons.
We're going to physically see it in the air?
We're going to have 2 moons,
Ooh,
15 days.
Very interesting. Where is that from?
It's from somewhere out in space.
Interesting.
It's going to be 52 days orbiting the planet and then 15 days that we can see it here.
Yeah, they're calling it a comet. But
so that's what people keep messaging me about, is there's a comet that's supposed to be inbound.
Yeah, it's September 27th.
A comet that is also a moon.
Well, they're calling it a second moon. Now, I have never heard anybody say second moon, that we've ever had a second moon. Now, when I look it up, if I get on the digitals, they're like, oh yeah, they've had it before.
Awesome. Go find it in some print.
Well, that's I was going to, at the beginning of this, I was like, hey, if you guys got an encyclopedia book that was manufactured before 1980, look and see if you can find anything about this.
What would you have them look under?
I don't know. Celestial bodies are orbiting.
Moon.
Orbiting. Because even when you think about
that's not a moon.
Think about this. Even the night satellite, they don't call it a moon. They call it a satellite because it's orbiting. It's just interesting that they are calling this a second moon.
Who is they?
Dude, take 2 seconds and just look it up on the internet. It's everywhere. Because it's coming and it's going to happen apparently on the 27th. Now, there's another one.
Who's the guy? Bet David just had a guy on talking about all the catastrophes that are supposed to hit the Earth and how we're always near Earth misses. And I can't remember his name, man. He looks completely out of shape. Old dude, very ungroomed, unkept.
Yeah.
Had some crazy shit to say.
We just put a new satellite, or not, it's not new, but it's the new. It replaced the Hubble telescope. Okay. And we can see even further. And apparently, just recently, we've been having Senate classified.
Yeah. This guy spoke before Congress.
Senate classified meetings because there is an object that is really big that is currently.
Does it change trajectory and course on its own?
It's currently course correcting coming towards Earth.
Interesting. That's how all those movies start.
And they said that they're saying that it'll be here in 10 years. Now, remember, everything that I could have just told you, even the moon thing, everything that I just told you could also all be propaganda to get you to think about something else.
That's what I always defer to.
It's always could be propaganda, especially when you're talking about it's going to be here in 10 years. Me personally, I would think, and I don't know if I don't know if it was true. Me personally, if there was an object that had been identified and was going to be here in 10 years, I think you would see a dramatic change in industry on what we were building. And you would see it, if it was real, you would see like Elon would be making, Elon would either be fucking hauling ass.
Maybe he is.
Elon would either be hauling ass.
Maybe that's why they're doing so much subterranean shit.
Maybe
building all these strongholds.
Or maybe he would be building something completely different. Right? Because
there does seem to be quite an attack on Elon Musk lately.
So I don't know. But I'm just using him as an example. Mm-hmm. I would assume that everybody, I would think if there was credible, and I'm not saying that this isn't not credible, but if there was a credible idea that something was going to come that we have no idea what it is, especially with course corrections, that every space agency on the planet would be fucking like hot. Like people would be hot making shit because
it'd be a way to pull you could pull the world together.
Whenever
and you could
a motherfucking
create industry.
Even ask anybody who was originally here in the New World. It's never good. It's never good to see sails coming across the sea to land on your shores. It never turns out good for the natives. So who knows? All that stuff could be propaganda. I don't know. That's the other thing. We talked about Diddy earlier, and Diddy, baby oil, all kinds of shit, right? Something happened during that process that a lot of people are ignoring. The entire board of directors of 23andMe quit.
Not only that, left one lady who I believe is an Israeli, is in the CEO of that company, right? So they left her holding everything. BlackRock owns 23andMe, has all you guys that did all that DNA shit to see where you came from. BlackRock has all that shit. They're going to use that in the near future, if not currently, when you get insurance for predisposed diseases and such that you have. But not only that, you have the board of directors from all these fucking companies have stepped down. Nike, all the board of directors, there's tons of fucking major companies where the board of directors has just fucking said, hey, peace out, we're out.
I think the 23andMe thing is bigger than that.
Okay, why do you think that is?
Than some sort of insurance scam. Because, well, again, board of directors stand to profit from all that.
During the beginning of COVID.
But board of directors they stand to profit from all that.
From Diddy?
No, from if I'm gonna use which they're gonna, but if I'm gonna use the information to screen and select people based off of their medical history, the board of directors of 23andMe stand to profit for all that.
Okay.
They quit.
Okay, so what do you think it is?
So my guess is there's a lot of people that company told a certain thing to that is going to come out not to be true.
And what do you think that might be? That they're not really what they said they were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's going to be it's going to turn out that
it was all horse shit.
That it's a massive fraud. Maybe and if it just turns out that it's massive fraud, that's really good. If it turns out that it's something else even more nefarious,
like what could that be?
I mean, if they have everybody's genetic makeup,
they do.
It could be. Well, they don't. But what I'm saying is, if they
have your DNA,
they have the capability of doing some really nefarious shit, right?
They could fucking put your DNA at a crime scene, for instance. What if they catalog, just as they've cataloged every piece of spoken information, every piece of digital text, everything we've ever, our search and history, all that shit, right? It's all cataloged.
You can't believe anything anymore.
And now when they want you, when you say some shit and they want to disappear your ass or build a case against you, they just assign a team of analysts to go through everything that you've ever said and everything you've ever texted. Can we find any crimes or anything that we can get this guy on, right? What if they could just take some unsolved crime and put your fucking DNA there now?
Well, they technically can.
Yes, they can.
They technically can. But again, all of those things. So whenever you do something like that, when you make that scenario, all of those things work well, or have the capability of working well once. But exponentially, as you increase the size of your program, and as you increase the amount of criminality that you're doing,
Yeah, somebody's going to tell.
you're fucked. So I'm not too worried about that. I mean, who knows? Does Camilla Harris hate me that much that she's going to have the DOJ come after me? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how crazy the left is. But again,
Okay, so is Trump going to take office?
he wins. I mean, literally 10 o'clock, it's over.
What do you mean 10 o'clock win?
By 10 o'clock,
You know they're already voting.
by 10 o'clock on November. Yeah, when we talk about people, when we're talking about early votes, those don't matter. those don't. That's all the fucking lefties in California.
You ever
right?
heard of people in prison being able to vote?
I've never heard of that.
They're doing that.
I know, but again, it doesn't look. For example, this is all the example you have. This is all the example you have to have. All right, let's just take one slice of the universe, just a little slice of the universe. The Democratic Party got Wallace. Is that his name? Vice President for Harris. What's his name? Wallace.
I don't even
It's
remember.
not Vance. Vance is
The dude that had all those cops shoot up all those people with pepper balls and shit during COVID.
Wallace.
Wait, what's the?
For Trump?
Yeah,
No, the Vice President for Harris.
Oh.
What's his name?
Anyways,
But just give you an example. We'll just take a small slice of the universe. The Democratic Party made him vice president. The Democratic Party got that one vote. Like, he's going to vote for Harris. The other 20 people in his family are voting for Trump. He can't even get his family to vote for him to be vice president. He can't get his family. If he can't get there's no fucking way they have the votes to even take. There's no way that they have the votes even close. He can't get his own goddamn family.
They didn't have the votes last time.
No, last time it was close. Here's the thing. Last time it was close enough and contested enough that people didn't pay attention. Everything is going to be looked at this election, and it's not even going to be close. It's not. The problem is.
Just look up who's the Democratic vice president candidate.
The problem is, last time it was close enough. It's not going to be close. It's not even going to. It's going to be a fucking red wave. It's going to be like when fucking Reagan won. It's going to be a fucking red wave that the Democrats just can't overcome.
All right, we got to go do Patreon.
Oh, Patreon.
We're going to do the same thing over on Patreon based off the questions that you guys asked. So if you're not a Patreon member,
I'm not going to answer your
Tim
question.
Walls.
Yeah, Walls.
Join Patreon if you want to participate over there. And then we're going to do a live and give some gear away. Listen, no matter what's going to end us in 10 years or 5 years or 1 year, I'm 52. Ever since I've been aware of prepping or survival or any of that stuff, something was always supposed to wipe us out. You guys remember the Mayan calendar? Do you guys remember Y2K? So I say that to say this. The more money you have, the more options you have, and the less things affect you. If you put less energy and time into something that you cannot change the course or you can't control, and you put that time into just making a life and making more money, even if we're all wiped out, if we're all while we're asleep, asteroid hits the earth and that's the end of it, you can't control it. But if nothing happens like that, you're much better off if you make some fucking money.
Are you really telling everybody not to listen to these podcasts?
I'm telling them, like know it, right? Look at all the prepper stuff, right? All the prepper stuff out there right now. We see all these Cold War era bunkers and stuff that guys are running through. The mainstream governments and military spent millions and millions, if not billions of dollars to build these things, and they abandoned them. They're sitting there catching water. All the stuff is still in them because they put their time and effort into that, and now it's just antiquated technology. We've now built better things underneath even those, right, with the tunnel boring systems and stuff. People at our level, normal citizens, normal businessmen, They build things also, and they build these bunkers, and they're still out there. You see them on Doomsday Prepper shows and these little bunkers and shit like that. Just build a life, build a fucking farm, build a business, and just build a family. Have the means to protect them, and do that with like-minded people, and build a community and an intentional society, right? It doesn't have to be planned. You don't all have to fucking have these guidelines and covenants and shit like that. That becomes a homeowners association. Just move to a community where you like the type of politics that are there, and you can buy the property and get to know your neighbors. You're going to be way ahead of where you are in a city, especially most of the people having these what should I do? I've got, $50 a week to spend on preps. You shouldn't do shit. You should get a fucking second and third job. There's 24 hours in a day. And then get the fuck out of wherever you're at. Because most of my problems, most of Jeff's problems, they all changed and lessened when we left California. Would you agree that your life...
100%.
As doomsday and as the end of the world as we are right now, we don't have any of the problems we had in California.
I tell John all the time when he gets all doomsday...
What are you looking at?
There's the Hornets.
When he gets all doomsday and starts talking about the end of the world, that the reality is the best thing that we ever did was moved here.
Absolutely.
Better than stockpiling food, guns, ammo. The best thing was getting away from major metropolitan cities, so you don't have the problems of major metropolitan cities. And
you have a lot more room to stockpile food and grow food, and you have more money to buy food with.
And the reality is people are better here.
They are, they're just friendly.
And even the crackheads are better here.
Yeah, I don't have, nobody's stealing some. If I was living in Tirasana, I guarantee there's all kinds of crimes. I don't have no crime right here. No. You know why? Because I have fucking fences.
Yeah, fences.
Gates, dogs, cameras.
That in California.
You couldn't have it where we were.
Yeah.
I couldn't even have a firewood pile. People were literally calling the police.
Yeah.
The police came to my house and said, we're growing marijuana. I'm like, you're welcome to look around. There's no marijuana. He's like, must have been these tomato plants. I guess it was. Fucking nuts.
Don't they do something weird with the recycling too? Like trash?
So they give us, it's been 25 years almost, since I've been in California, 20. They gave you these are big trash cans, dude. I'll bet they're 120, 130 gallon trash cans. They're big, like a machine picks them up with a claw. You get a green one, which is supposed to be all your plant matter and any recycling from like the store, right? Groceries and shit like that, food type stuff. There's a blue one, which is recycling, which is plastic, metal, paper, cans. And then the black one is supposed to be trash that can't go to any of the two. And they literally will have little old motherfuckers, old ladies that drive around and look in your trash to write you a fucking ticket. And you're not supposed to put any of your batteries or light bulbs. Those are all you're supposed to take those to a certified drop point, which could be Home Depot or Lowe's or some bullshit like that.
I went to a dump in San Bernardino when I was back.
And they don't let you take, I used to go to the dump with my grandfather.
Yeah, and you could take stuff. But I went to dump in San Bernardino, and it was just a warehouse. It was a fucking warehouse. I mean, it was 30 foot tall, and it was probably twice as big as John's shop. And you literally just backed your truck up, and then you fucking threw everything out of the back, and then drove away. And inside, tractors, and they're just fucking picking this shit up and dumping it, and you can see all the different conveyors that were moving the trash around and making different piles. It was actually pretty awesome to see. And then all that and then as they get separated, the type of materials it was, then it goes to the recycling place. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Now there's a ton of videos on YouTube lately where it's been busted out that they're literally just still, you're paying all this money, they've got all these people doing all this bullshit. It's just
going right in the trash.
But it's going right in the fucking dump. They're still burying it.
Sending it to China.
Well, Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam.
And all over.
I saw paper trash in Vietnam that was from California.
All right, guys, we're going to go do the Patreon videos. If you use Redcon 1 products, if you use code SOE Gear, it'll get you 20% off your order. EMP Shield, code SOE, they'll give you $50 off your order. If you use any of our links in the description of this video to any of our Amazon affiliate links, it downloads a cookie. Anything you buy in the next 24 hours gives us a small percentage of your order. Thank you for being a member here and participating. If you're listening to this and the comments don't seem to make sense, it's because we do these videos for our paid members. It's $10 for the membership, and they come out, literally this video came out a few days later. If you're seeing it in the public and you're not a member, you're seeing it months later, and that's why it's out of sequence. So if you want to participate, then jump on the membership, and we have a membership on Patreon also. We will see you guys later.
Built this thing from the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your